Half of your $1 million apartment is mine. Those were the words that left Jordan's mouth. Glass of wine lifted high voice, booming across the crowded graduation dinner. The sentence landed on me like a stone dropped into still water. Ripples spread across the table. Laughter bubbled up, and for a moment, I could hear the metallic clink of cutlery stop midair. I was holding a folder under the table, the folder that contained my mortgage approval letter crisp and official with the notary stamp still visible. My knuckles tightened around it until the edges bent. That apartment was supposed to be my milestone, the symbol of years of saving, of skipped vacations, of long evenings, staring at spreadsheets until my eyes burned. Yet here was Jordan turning it into a punchline, a claim, a mockery of my sacrifice. The table roared. Lily slapped Marcus on the shoulder as though Jordan had just delivered the joke of the night. Even the younger cousins, wide-eyed from too much soda, giggled. I forced a smile, though my chest burned. The folder lay heavy in my lap, an anchor dragging me under. For a few seconds, I slipped into silence, the kind where you realize you are utterly alone, though surrounded by people. My gaze drifted to the keychain on the table in front of me, the one engraved with the year I graduated from college. No one asked about it. No one noticed that I had carried my life in small tokens while others took up space with their noise. Then came the second feeling the mask. I laughed a hollow laugh, pressing my glass to my lips, letting the wine disguise the bitterness at the back of my throat. I nodded when someone asked about work, smiled, when the graduate's name was toasted again. The performance was necessary. Families do not want raw truth in the middle of a party. They want clinking glasses, smiling photos, a show. Inside, I heard the echo of another night. Jordan in the bedroom laughing with Lily and Marcus before heading out to a concert, saying carelessly, "I shaved my whole body just in case." They had all laughed then, too. They thought I had not heard. But I had. I carried that sentence like a splinter under the skin, invisible but constant until it pushed itself to the surface in this crowded restaurant. Humiliation has a taste. It is metallic like blood in the mouth. It is cold like the edge of a knife you do not expect against your skin. Betrayal, on the other hand, is quieter. It is the slow recognition that the person beside you has been chiseling away at your dignity, one joke, one secret, one sneer at a time. I looked around that table and realized no one was on my side, not in that moment. They were too busy enjoying the spectacle of Jordan's wit, my name, my savings, my apartment reduced to entertainment. But what they did not know was that the story would not end at that dinner table. The folder in my lap would not remain silent. This part matters. Tell me where you are watching from, and hit subscribe. We need to talk about families and money. I did not sleep the night before that graduation dinner. The memory kept looping relentless of Jordan's voice floating out of the bedroom while they got ready with Lily and Marcus. I had been sitting in the living room, the television muted, pretending to scroll through my phone. The bedroom door was cracked open, their voices spilling into the apartment like a cruel soundtrack. Jordan said it loud and proud. I shaved my whole body just in case. The laughter that followed was sharp, jagged. Lily shrieked with delight. Marcus's chuckle was slower, uncertain, but he joined in anyway. I remember staring at the reflection of the silent television, my own face faint and pale in the glass frozen. It wasn't just the suggestion of cheating. It was the carelessness, the casual nature of it. They weren't whispering. They weren't ashamed. It was as if my humiliation had become a running joke between friends, a funny little anecdote to kick off their night of music and alcohol. I thought of the last 2 years, all the late nights Jordan explained away as work dinners. The phone turned over whenever I walked into the room. The lingering fondness when they mentioned an ex. Each small detail had been a loose thread, and with one sentence all those threads pulled together, weaving an ugly pattern I could no longer ignore. I sat motionless, but inside I was rearranging my life. The way one organizes a filing cabinet after years of disorder, I placed each moment in its proper place, every excuse, every look, every uneasy silence. By the time Jordan emerged from the bedroom in a new dress I had never seen before, hair and makeup flawless, I already knew what had to be done. Jordan kissed me on the cheek, performative empty. "We're heading out. Don't wait up. It'll be a late one." I answered evenly. "Okay, have fun. Be safe." They didn't notice my eyes. They didn't see the clarity settling in like a still lake after a storm. The apartment was quiet for 10 minutes after they left. 10 minutes where I sat with my thoughts, not angry, not yet. Instead, I felt something close to peace. Sometimes the end comes not with shouting, but with stillness, like the moment after a candle goes out. That was when I decided. I would not scream. I would not beg for explanations. Words can be twisted, but actions are final. So I rose, walked to the bedroom, and pulled 3 duffel bags down from the closet shelf. I fetched a stack of empty boxes from under the bed. One by one, I began packing Jordan's life away. Clothes, shoes, makeup, the laptop, the little trinkets from vacations I paid for. Each item folded, placed, organized. Not a single thing broken. This was not about chaos. This was about order. My order. By 3 in the morning, every trace of Jordan was stacked neatly by the door. The keys rested on top, silent proof that the lease bore only my name. I took a picture on my phone, time-stamped a record in case it was ever needed. Then I lay down in the guest room because the bed we once shared already felt foreign. 4 in the morning, the sound of stumbling, the clatter of a box tipped over. A curse, then silence. Harper Jordan's voice, suddenly small, cut through the dark. Footsteps shuffled, a sharp intake of breath when they saw the empty closet, then pounding on the guest room door. What the hell is this? Open the door. I stayed silent, earplugs in. 20 minutes of yelling, sobbing, bargaining, then the sound of dragging boxes, the door slamming shut. By dawn, the apartment was quiet again. My phone lit up with messages, a flood of them, but I ignored it. The picture of the stacked boxes was still on my screen, a reminder of the moment I reclaimed my dignity. But what Jordan didn't know, what no one knew, was that this was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke to a strange calm. The sun filtered through the blinds, striping the guest room wall with soft light. For the first time in years, my chest felt lighter. The air in the apartment seemed different too, as if it no longer carried Jordan's perfume or the sound of their restless pacing on late nights. I brewed coffee slowly, deliberately. The kitchen was bare on one side now. The counter where Jordan kept a mess of cosmetics and vitamins was clean, only the coffee pot humming. I sipped from my mug and let my eyes rest on the neat stack of boxes by the door. The time-stamped photo still glowed on my phone screen. Proof of what had happened. Proof of what I was capable of when pushed far enough. Jordan's note sat on the counter, tear-stained, crumpled. I did not read it. Instead, I folded it in half and dropped it straight into the trash. Words were cheap, I wanted no more of theirs. By mid-morning, the messages poured in faster. Long paragraphs of confusion gave way to anger, then pleading. I did not respond. My silence became a wall, and I discovered I liked the strength of it. Jordan had always known me as the one who gave in, who tried to soothe. Now my refusal to speak was louder than any argument. I spent the day methodically reclaiming the apartment. The closet was mine again. The bathroom shelves were cleared, no longer weighed down by bottles and serums I had never touched. I dusted surfaces, vacuumed corners, opened windows to let in autumn air. It was not about tidying, it was about erasure. Still, I knew this story would not stay hidden. Families talk friends, gossip secrets, leak faster than water through a sieve. And Jordan was nothing if not dramatic. Sooner or later, they would spin their version of the story. I needed my own. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table with the folder of mortgage papers. The crisp contract bore only my name. The lease for the current apartment again, only my name. The bank statements thick with the record of my savings over years of restraint. Jordan had contributed nothing but clutter. I laid the documents out in neat rows, took photos of each with my phone. Evidence. Not because I feared Jordan would sue, but because humiliation had a way of twisting reality. People remember jokes more than truth. And Jordan's voice echoing at that dinner, "Half of your $1 million apartment is mine," was already shaping into a false claim. I closed the folder, slid it back into the drawer, and poured myself another cup of coffee. There was a strange satisfaction in this quiet plotting, like setting chess pieces, before the match even began. At midnight, a new message arrived. Jordan again. "You can't just erase me. People know. Everyone knows." I stared at the screen, then at the boxes still waiting by the door untouched since the night before. My lips curved into a small smile. They thought erasure was impossible. They thought I was powerless without them. But what they didn't know was that I had only just begun. The morning after the silence, I opened my family group chat. The same one cluttered with baby pictures from cousins, forwarded jokes from uncles, and endless holiday planning. It had always been background noise to me. I rarely spoke there. But this time I typed a message and pressed send with a calm certainty. Attached was the photo I had taken at 3:17 in the morning, Jordan's belongings, stacked by the door boxes and duffel bags, arranged with the precision of a moving company. On top of the pile, the apartment keys glinted beneath the kitchen light. My caption was short: "Since Jordan claimed half my apartment at the graduation dinner, here's their half by the door." For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the notifications began to explode. Claire, my cousin, was the first to react, typing, deleting, typing again, before settling on a single shocked emoji. My aunt replied with, "Oh my goodness, Harper." Then the floodgates opened. Some messaged in private, "Are you serious? Did Jordan really say that?" Others replied directly in the chat. My Uncle Blunt has always typed, "About time someone taught that one a lesson." And then inevitably someone leaked it. By afternoon, screenshots of my post floated through a wider circle. Friends, coworkers, even acquaintances I had not spoken to in years. I knew because messages began arriving from every corner of my life. One colleague wrote, "Legendary move." Another simply said, "Respect." Jordan, meanwhile, panicked. My phone vibrated nonstop. First came the calls unanswered, then the texts, fury, then tears, then bargaining. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Delete that picture right now." "We can talk, please, Harper." I didn't answer. My silence became the stage, and Jordan performed all the roles alone: the victim, the accuser, the repentant partner. I watched from a distance, unmoved. That evening I returned to the group chat. The noise had quieted into whispers. Finally I typed, "This is not about a joke. This is about respect. And mine is not for sale." The chat went silent after that. Silent in the way that means people are screenshotting, forwarding, replaying the words in their own circles. I knew the message would travel. In today's world, truth spreads not by careful explanation, but by spectacle, and I had given them one. For years I had been the quiet one, the dependable one, the forgiving one, but humiliation once public demands a public answer. That photograph was mine, my answer. What Jordan never understood was that betrayal may begin in private, whispered between friends in a bedroom, but revenge, real revenge, thrives in daylight. And daylight had only just arrived. By the next morning, I no longer needed to open my phone to know what had happened. The neighbors on my floor gave me side glances in the hallway, whispers lingering just beyond earshot. At the cafe on the corner, the barista greeted me with a grin wider than usual and said, "Harper, I saw that post. You're famous now." I hadn't posted it on social media myself. I never needed to. Families are their own broadcasters. Someone, maybe a cousin, maybe a nosy aunt, had taken a screenshot of my message in the group chat and tossed it into the hungry pit of the internet. From there, it spread like fire on dry grass. By noon, a coworker texted, "You're trending in our Slack channel. Half the office is calling you a hero." Another message, "Jordan must be losing their mind." And they were right. Jordan's attempts at damage control became increasingly frantic. One moment they posted a long weeping apology on their Instagram story, blurred words about being misunderstood about how I had overreacted. The next they switched to anger, a post implying I was cruel, vindictive, unstable. But screenshots are merciless. Every contradiction, every reversal was cataloged and shared further. The sentence from that dinner, "Half of your $1 million apartment is mine," was now repeated across comment sections, sometimes as a joke, sometimes as an indictment. Memes appeared, photos of strangers' clutter captioned, "Here's your half." Even my banker forwarded one to me with a note. "Thought you'd appreciate this." Humiliation, I realized, had a new face, and this time it wasn't mine. But I won't pretend I felt only triumph. There was unease, too, the prickling sense of being watched. Viral fame is a double-edged sword. Some comments painted me as ruthless, heartless for making the eviction public. Strangers debated my character as if they'd known me for years. Was I justified? Was I petty? Was I cruel? I scrolled until my eyes burned, then tossed the phone aside. The hum of my refrigerator became the only sound in the apartment. The boxes were gone, yet their ghostly outlines still seemed to linger by the door. That evening, Claire came over. She brought takeout and sat cross-legged on my couch, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of it all. "You do realize you've just written yourself into family legend, right? Thanksgiving will never be the same." I shrugged, though I felt the corners of my mouth lift. Jordan wrote the script. I just delivered the ending. Claire raised her glass. To endings, then. And to whatever comes next. I clinked my glass against hers. The wine tasted different now, lighter, cleaner. What I didn't tell her was that Jordan had left me one last message, short and sharp, sent just before she arrived. You can't erase me. Everyone knows. But what Jordan failed to understand was that public memory is fickle. People don't remember balance sheets or contracts. They remember spectacle. And I had given them the kind of spectacle that rewrites reputations overnight. Still, I knew the story wasn't finished. Viral humiliation was only the surface. Beneath it waited something quieter, heavier, inevitable: the law. The morning after the viral storm, I received a call from my lawyer. His voice was calm, deliberate, the tone of a man who has seen many fires burn and many fade. Harper, he said, it may be time to put this matter in black and white. Jordan's words are growing, and words left unchecked have a way of turning into claims. So that afternoon I walked into his office. The lobby smelled faintly of polished wood and paper, the kind of place where disputes are stripped of their noise and pressed into neat paragraphs. Claire came with me, her presence steady like a quiet witness to all I had endured. We sat across the heavy oak desk while my lawyer spread out documents. First came the lease to my current apartment, my name alone. Then the folder I had carried at that dinner, the mortgage approval for the new apartment, again, my name alone. Bank statements carefully highlighted, savings accumulated through years of overtime, of saying no to trips, of eating leftovers more nights than I care to count. Not a single deposit from Jordan. Legally, my lawyer said, tapping his pen, Jordan has nothing. Not a thread of ownership, not a shred of entitlement. What they said at that dinner carries no weight. But then he slid another page across the desk, an email. It had been forwarded to me anonymously, the sender hidden. The subject line read, just in case. My breath caught as I scanned the lines. It was Jordan's writing, unmistakable. In it, they bragged to a friend. If Harper closes on that apartment, I'll find a way to get half. I've invested 2 years of my life. That should count for something. My stomach turned. So the dinner remark hadn't been a spur-of-the-moment joke. It had been rehearsed, a line born out of quiet calculation. Betrayal is one thing, premeditation is another. Claire leaned over my shoulder, her voice low. They were planning this all along. I nodded. The pieces fell together with cruel clarity: the shaving comment before the concert, the casual hiding of the phone, the way Jordan had seemed almost eager to discuss money whenever I brought up my savings. I had mistaken it all for immaturity, thoughtless behavior. But here it was in black and white intent. My lawyer folded his hands. If Jordan tries to escalate, you are protected. But protection is not the same as peace. Do you want to take this further? I stared at the email again. My first instinct had been silence, eviction, erasure. But now I understood something deeper. Revenge is not just about removing someone from your space. It is about ensuring they cannot rewrite the story after they are gone. I don't want to fight, I said slowly. I want clarity. I want them to know that in every way that matters, they have no claim on me. Not legally, not financially, not personally. The lawyer nodded. Then we make that clarity public. When we left his office, the late afternoon sun slanted across the city streets. Claire slipped her arm through mine. You've already won, Harper, she said gently. But I shook my head. Not yet. Winning in silence isn't enough anymore. Jordan humiliated me in public. Now it's my turn. What they didn't know was that the law, steady and unyielding, was about to become my stage. In the days that followed the meeting with my lawyer, a new calm settled over me. The chatter of social media began to fade, as it always does. The internet is fickle, eager to devour a new scandal. But for me, the storm had not ended. It had only shifted into a different form, one I could finally control. I began by reclaiming the apartment in ways that felt both symbolic and practical. The closet that had once overflowed with Jordan's things now held only my carefully chosen wardrobe. The bathroom shelves, stripped bare of endless bottles and perfumes, gleamed with nothing but my essentials. I bought a new set of sheets, crisp and white, and spread them across the bed like a declaration: this space is mine. But revenge is not found in fresh linen alone. It needed permanence. With Claire by my side, I attended a small gathering at my aunt's house the following weekend. Family, of course, could not resist whispering, but the whispers fell silent when I entered the room. Jordan had already told their version, painting themselves as the victim. Yet the air shifted when I laid a single folder on the table, the same folder I'd once clutched under a dinner table, the same one that had bent under the pressure of my fists. Inside were the documents, the lease, the mortgage approval, the email. I didn't shout, I didn't accuse. I simply opened each page, let the words and signatures speak louder than I ever could. Jordan never paid a cent, I said evenly, and this I tapped the email shows what their plan was all along. The silence was sharp heavy. A few averted their eyes. An uncle muttered under his breath. Claire's gaze locked with mine, steady and fierce. Jordan wasn't there, but the absence spoke volumes. They had avoided this confrontation, perhaps knowing the truth was heavier than any story they could spin. By the time dessert was served, the narrative had shifted. I was no longer the cruel one who had thrown someone out. I was the wronged one who had finally decisively said enough. Back home that night, I sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights. My phone buzzed again with messages from Jordan, the tone swinging wildly. Rage, sorrow, bargaining. I scrolled once, then deleted them all. Revenge, I realized, wasn't about shouting someone down. It was about erasing the noise they brought into your life and replacing it with your own clarity. Claire poured 2 glasses of wine and joined me. She lifted hers, eyes glinting. Family isn't blood, Harper. It's who stands by you when the storm hits. I touched my glass to hers, and when betrayal tries to crawl back in. That night, I slept deeply, the city's hum outside my window. Jordan might still scream into the void, but in my world, in my apartment, in my story, they were already gone. And this time, gone meant gone. The papers were signed on a quiet Tuesday morning. I sat across from the notary, pen in hand, while the final page of the mortgage contract waited before me. $1.2 million. That number had followed me for months, through sleepless nights, through ridicule, at family dinners, through betrayal, whispered behind bedroom doors, and now with one firm stroke of ink it belonged to me. When I pressed my signature down, something in me loosened. Years of saving, of self-denial, of doubt, suddenly they condensed into a single moment. The folder was heavier when I closed it, not because of paper, but because of certainty. This apartment was mine, not half, not shared, not contested, mine. I walked through the new space that afternoon, box cutter in hand, peeling open cartons of books and dishes. The windows stretched wide across the skyline, Manhattan laid out like a painting. The hum of traffic below was steady, almost reassuring. Here no one could tell me I was less. No one could reduce me to a joke. Claire arrived with a bottle of champagne. She popped the cork, the sound echoing against bare walls. We sat on the floor, glasses in hand, surrounded by unopened boxes. You know, she said with a smile, in 10 years they'll still be telling this story at family gatherings, but this time you'll be the one they talk about with respect. I let out a laugh, soft but genuine. Maybe so. Or maybe they'll just remember that I drew a line and I never stepped back over it. We toasted the bubbles sharp against my tongue. I thought back to the dinner, to the moment Jordan's voice had cut through laughter. Half of your $1 million apartment is mine. That line had been meant to humiliate me. Instead, it became the turning point, the sentence that revealed their greed and my resolve. The phone on the counter buzzed again. I didn't need to check. I knew whose name would glow on the screen. For the first time, I ignored it not out of anger, but out of peace. Jordan's chapter in my life had closed. They had no keys to this door, no rights to this view, no place in this home. As the evening settled in, I stood at the window. The city shimmered 1,000 tiny lights burning against the night. Somewhere down there, people were laughing, betraying, forgiving, seeking revenge. Life was messy that way, but I had carved out my own corner of order from the chaos. And that, I realized, was the truest form of revenge, not rage, not spectacle, but freedom. If you think Harper's revenge was right, comment right. If you'd handle it differently, share your way.